everyone, back at it again in my little yellow kayak. Just launched the kayak, getting myself squared away and headed out onto the lake. But this was a fun trip. Actually, there was two trips. So this is the afternoon. I'll show you the morning trip a little bit later on. We've got good conditions, cloudy skies. We've got some south wind. You don't really see the ripple on the water until about, I don't know, a third of the way down the lake. So pretty light winds. Actually, I'm probably going to paddle over to the windy side pretty soon. I tend to do better in the wind, but at least we've got some clouds. I've got my heavy BFS rod rigged up with a micro Texas rig. It's got a 1/16 ounce tungsten worm weight, 1/0 hook, little 1/0 hook, and that's a Z-Man Baby Goats. And I don't hear too many people talk about the Z-Man Baby Goat, but it's one of my favorite baits for a micro Texas rig. They're very durable. Those little kicker feet last a long time. I catch a ton of fish on it. I don't know if they think it's a bluegill or a crawfish in that deal color. I guess it could be a little both. I don't know what they think it is, but they definitely like it. And then I lather it up with some scent. In this case it was Procure Super Gel and the Crawfish Scent. And I'm just pitching it over by swim platforms and any other piece of cover, a little point, weed line, edge of the grass, anything like that, anything that I think might hold a fish. I'm working it with my rod. When I feel one pick it up, I reel down to them, set the hook. Now this is a BFS setup. It's a 7.2 Curado medium light. So it's pretty heavy for BFS, even though they call it a BFS rod. It's pretty stiff. So it sets the hook great, especially on light tackle with small hooks. But even smaller fish like this are a lot of fun. It's kind of the middle of the day. I'm not expecting to knock their socks off. I just want to go out and catch a couple fish in the time that I have. And this is a rig that'll do that for you. I'm not even fishing all the boat docks. Those boat docks are kind of shallow. They do hold fish, but they're kind of shallow. I'm just focusing on, high percentage targets, and there's less swim platforms, so I can cover the swim platforms pretty fast. Had a little bit of an overrun there. Let it sit on the bottom while I was picking it out. Now I'm going to hop it along. Sometimes just sitting on the bottom, it allows the fish to close the gap if they're not in the immediate area. And that can be a big deal. One didn't pick it up on that cast, but maybe the next cast I'll get them. Still picking out my backlashes. The braid's still dry. Once it gets wet, it'll give me less trouble. Some of these BFS reels can be a little finicky with 10-pound braid. I mean, that stuff's pretty thin and it wants to fluff up on the spool. So I want to get maximum distance with the least amount of headaches, and it just takes me a while to get that reel dialed in the way I want it. And also, like I said, the braid's dry right now. Once I get that braid wet, it's a different story. Anyway, while I was talking and picking out the backlash, one picked it up, reel down to him, set the hook, nothing to it. Without BFS, these are the kinds of conditions where you could struggle. It could be a tough bite, flat, calm conditions. A lot of times fish won't even look at a chatterbait, or they won't even look at a spinnerbait with flat, calm water like that. Got another one. Oh, this was kind of fun. I was paddling along, trying to get to the windy side. The wind kept trying to get away from me. And I came across a bed, except it wasn't a bass bed. It was some kind of sunfish bed, and I threw the micro, it's not a micro goat, it's a baby goat, micro Texas rig at him, and played with him a little bit, and eventually he ate it. This is supposed to be a rig for bass, but it's small enough that you can also catch bigger sunfish like this, and maybe even perch, crappie. I catch a lot of different things on that baby goat. Look at the colors on that one. The camera doesn't even pick it up as much as he was colored up in person. Fishing offshore now. Well, I guess I was before, but I'm fishing an offshore hump now. Some weeds out there. You see the marker buoy, the red and white marker buoy? Those hazard buoys or marker buoys, whatever you want to call them, they often mark good fishing spots too. You just don't want to, if you're in a big boat, you don't want to wreck your lower unit on the rocks, but you can stay outside and cast towards the hazard buoy. Another largemouth. Stuck him in the corner of the mouth there. Got my trusty forceps to help get him free. Nothing to it. He's not a giant, but I'm adding him up. Alright, next couple mornings, I hit the same pond. And this time I got there super early. I believe this was Saturday too, so it's kind of busy. There was people launching on the left side of the launch, so I went right. And I'm going to paddle across the lake. I want to catch up to the wind, but I also found some bait while I was fishing around. And I also want to make sure I give, it was a father and son launch in their kayaks and they were going to fish, so I wanted to give them plenty of space too. So I'm going to just put it in fast forward mode and crank across this lake. Always easier in fast forward mode. I've said this before, but you know, it's kind of a long distance to paddle this little kayak. It's not like a sea kayak. It's not really streamlined. It is very stable. And so I usually start off pulling the paddle towards me. Left, right, pull, pull, pull. And then when my arms get tired, I punch. Punch left, punch right, punch left, punch right. And then I switch back to pull, 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 pull. And if I really get tired, I can stop and fish. Otherwise, I just keep cycling through. Pull, 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 then punch, punch, punch. Cycle, cycle, cycle. And pretty soon you're across the whole lake. And then when the wind picks up, hopefully it'll be a north wind. It can blow me back towards the launch. But anyway, that's how I do it. And using this technique, you can cover a lot more water than if you just have the same paddling technique the whole trip. You know, your arms they just wear out. They're not as strong as your legs. So you know, with my Hobie kayak, my sea kayak, I can go a long time pedaling because my legs are just so much, there's just so much more muscle mass than my biceps and triceps. So it's a completely different game versus paddling, especially, you know, a kind of a short squat boat like this. I love it. It's just short and squat. All right, let's get to the fish. All right, finally made it to the other side of the lake. I'm going to start off with a Megabass Giant Dog-X. The color is called HT Ito Wakasagi, and I think Wakasagi is smelt in Japanese. Right away I got bit. You know, I barely started walking that bait. I'm fishing an offshore hump, but more specifically I'm fishing weeds on the offshore hump. So I'm casting the edge of the weed line on the offshore hump, and as soon as I started walking it, there was a fish on it. Paused, repositioned the boat, kept walking it, paused again, and the fish was on it. So I assume it's the same fish that was just tracking it, but it could have been a different fish. And so, you know, this is early in the morning. It's probably around 5:36 right now. And so top water, at least for me, is a much better option than like the previous afternoon. Even though I had clouds then, if the fish were going to feed on top, they probably already did it early in the morning. And so, yeah, that's why I started out with top water, and that's why I started out with the baby goat the previous afternoon. We'll get that guy free in a second. Got to be a little careful with those trebles in the kayak. There he is. Nice little largemouth. Thanks for playing, bud. Now, as long as they'll hit the top water, I'm going to stick with it. And I don't need a ton of activity for me to stick with it just because I love it so much. But I need, you know, probably a fish an hour to keep going. And if I have that, I'll just keep walking the dog, walking the dog, walking the dog until I'm not getting bit anymore. And that usually coincides with the sun getting up over the tree line. As soon as that sun's really on the water, the topwater bite's going to slow down. And if it's cloudy, you might get another half hour, an hour out of it. Sometimes they can go all day if you got perfect conditions, but typically in the summer, for me at least, it's a morning bite, morning topwater bite, and then I have to switch over to other things like a fluke or a Fat Ika. That's a new bait I've been fishing. Doing well with that bait. I upgraded the trebles on the Megabass Giant Dog-X. The ones that come with it are pretty thin and they bend out easily. So I think first couple fish I had on it bent out the trebles. So I upgraded those trebles to number 4 Hayabusa TBL 730 or 930 NRBs, which are, it's like a slick gray finish on them. But the reason for the Hayabusa hooks is that I think they're a 1X strong, even if it doesn't say it in the description of the hooks. They're definitely thicker wire than some other number 4s, but they're not so thick that it would prevent you from getting a good hook set. Some baits come with like 3X or 4X trebles, which is way too much in my opinion for a walking bait. You want to be able to stick those fish even if they just swing at the bait. And so you need the right mix of strength so they don't bend out, but you don't want them too thick, and you certainly don't want them too thin that they're going to bend out like the stock hooks did. I mean, they immediately bent out, and I had 2 different colors and both did the same thing. So the sun's up a little higher. You can see it over the tree line now. I've switched to the Fat Ika, and I'm trying to hit some high percentage areas. I can't fish that bait or cover water nearly as well as I can with a walking bait like the Megabass Giant Dog-X. So I'm picking apart spots. I don't have any electronics on this boat. I'm just using my eyes and aiming for points, aiming for humps, weed lines, edges, that kind of stuff. That one's a little better. A little skinny, but better. He's got a big mouth. Nice. We're making progress. Once I started catching them on the Fat Ika, I figured I'd just stick with that. The sun's up high now. Boat traffic's picking up. And I want something low and slow. And they seem to love this Fat Ika. It's a strange looking bait. Looks kind of like a squid or an octopus. I have it reverse rigged, which means you could put the hook through the tentacle side first, come out the other end, which is kind of the Senko end. But they absolutely love it. Casts well. Falls reasonably fast. Here's another one, a little bit smaller than that last one, but that's okay. See me going over the weeds. See if you can see into the water. There's some weeds I'm fishing around. Offshore weeds. I'm trying to get to the edge of that weed line. Cast out the Fat Ika. Let it sink. Hop it a few times. See if any fish come over to it. It's a fair amount of plastic, so when you reel down to them, you gotta set it pretty hard to get through the plastic and then into the fish and set that hook. But it's no big deal. I'm using a 30-pound braid. There he is. Guess another 2-pounder. I don't think he'd go 3. Maybe though. And yeah, 30-pound braid, 12-pound Yozuri hybrid leader. Fishing it slow. You'll feel them pick it up too. Feel a tick on your line. Tick. And you reel down to them. Set the hook. I didn't get a great hook set in that one. Might be enough to get him in the boat though. We'll see. As I'm making my way around the lake, the fish are getting a little smaller too. Might be random chance, but I don't know. I think next time I'll pick apart the other end more thoroughly instead of just trying to cover water. Alright, I think I got one more fish to show you. Still fishing the Fat Ika. I'm slowly making my way around the lake. It's a nice easy pace. Paddle a little bit. Let that Fat Ika settle down. Reel down to him, lift him up. Hop, hop. Trying to imitate a crayfish, I think. That's what I'm imagining while I'm working the bait. Let it settle back down. Comes through weeds and rocks and wood pretty well. There's no weight, so it doesn't settle down into the junk. Kind of floats down on top of it. And the fish seem to really like it. You know, around me, these fish see a lot of Senkos and Yum Dingers and every other kind of stick bait, so just showing them something different, even though it's not a big fish, sometimes is productive. Alright, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Just like all my other videos, I'll list all the gear in the video description so you can duplicate what I was doing out here today. Hopefully have some good success wherever you might be fishing around the country or around the world. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!